Hello there, and welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. I have a guest host tonight, which I'll be introducing in just a few minutes. We're just getting started here. The live show discussion topics are normally anything you feel is newsworthy about anti-racism, bigotry, inequality, and corruption in America. But today's going to be a little different, but normally the show is created for an opportunity for viewers to speak their mind, but also to serve as an educational tool in cultural competency to focus on learning all about systemic racism and our real racial history. Tonight's show, instead of the usual Everything Goes, is going to be about, welcome Linda, it's going to be about the Derek Chauvin trial and the police homicides of against Black people where they have impunity, which is a huge, huge issue. And I wanted to thank everybody really fast. A couple of quick little notes. If you want to get a hold of me, you can PM me here. And April 18th is at 9 p.m. Eastern will be our third book chat group on white fragility. I summarize, and you can, anyone who wants to join, I would love it. I do free streaming from 3 to 5 on Sundays as well. And if you want to call into the show after my lovely guest is done speaking and ready for questions, this is the phone number right here. I'm going to hold off on phones until he is done with, his initial talking and ready for questions. And on that lovely note, I would like to introduce my friend, my guest host, Don CRUMLIN, who's Colonel CRUMLIN. And okay, a little coaching for me on the tech side. Thank you. I'll pay you later. Carrie back, welcome. Let me just get started here. Hey, Pat. I want to introduce, a lot of you know him. He is a regular on this Wednesday night show. This is Colonel CRUMLIN, who is a former military commander. And welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Kim. Glad to be here.
I'm going to just jump in and talk about him in front of him, embarrass him for a little bit, if you don't mind. We're going to definitely be having a lot to say about what's going on in the trial, but beforehand, I want to introduce him a little bit generally, but then I want to tell you a little bit of other things. So hang in there with me while I blab away. Colonel CRUMLIN, or Don, my friend, is not only a former military commander, but he is currently a certified health and wellness consultant. And tonight, he also does a blog, and he has a health and fitness page. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about tonight. It's going to be a little bit something special. He's going to talk a little bit before we get into the real topic at hand tonight. We're going to have him talk and discuss a little bit about the COVID virus and the vaccine. And so you might ask, well, why is Don talking about this? I'm here to tell you. Don has some very unique qualities and characteristics that make him the perfect person to talk to us. Not only is he heavily involved throughout his life in health and fitness, but he did his undergrad in biology and chemistry, pre-med major. He's, as I said, a health and wellness coach right now. And he was a biology and chemistry teacher for 2 years in high school. He was a dominant contributor to the design and implementation of the U.S. military's current fitness program, consulting with and training with all branches of military service to develop a final resulting program. He was a senior quality advisor for Hewlett-Packard. He ran the Medi-Cal program, servicing the entire state of California. working with the top doctors and nurses in the state for 16 years. So this man knows a little bit about this kind of stuff. He's still in touch with many of the talented people that he worked with in the healthcare profession, and he consulted with them to do a write-up. He felt very strongly, and I've read it, and it's fantastic. He also happens to have some family who he has some family who he is able to consult with, a Johns Hopkins doctor, which is amazing. One of his nieces is a nurse practitioner, registered nurse with a master's degree in the Los Angeles area, who's spent years as an RN, emergency room nurse. He also, I'm just going on, for about 5 years, he's been writing a daily blog, a health and wellness blog, and which is full of research. He has 3 master's degrees, and he is also, and this is really cool, he's trained with both the US and the Korean Taekwondo Olympic teams. So you're getting a real expert. And the coolest thing about Don is that he's my friend and he really cares. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and I'm just going to kind of hang, and I'll let you know when Don will tell us when he's ready for, any questions and phone calls or comments. All right. Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you so much, Angry Soccer Mom, and a pleasure to be here and to be able to share my thoughts and my conclusions regarding my research regarding all of this. One of the things that inspired me to write the document that I'm going to share with all of you is the fact that there's still an enormous population out there of folks that are either vaccine decliners or anti-vaxxers, period. And though I respect that position, I would like for everyone to have the opportunity to make an informed decision by me giving you some facts and details related to all of this and why it's so important that everyone get vaccinated regardless of your position. I respect your position, whatever that is, but please listen to the data. So without further ado, as Kim described, I did very extensive research on all of this. And this is a document that I created that I wanted to share with you so that you would understand, hopefully, a little bit better about what's going on with regard to the entire scenario that unfortunately has gotten politicized. Science doesn't care about politics. Science is real, and here's the real information that you need to know. So, why is it so important for everyone to get vaccinated? And these are the explanations as follows. Question: wasn't the virus developed in a lab in China intended to be weaponized but then got out of control? Answer: no. This is a completely false conspiracy theory that is not supported by any factual data, and all computer models have verified that the propagation and behavior of the virus would be completely different if any of this conspiracy theory were true. Question: I'm concerned about how fast they were able to develop the vaccine. Answer: this vaccine uses newly developed latest technology, enabling the development to be much faster than previous processes and a completely different and frankly more effective immune system boost methodology using mRNA, management ribonucleic acid, which you know is the building blocks to DNA. Question: I don't trust the drug manufacturers because they've been guilty of doing some nefarious things in the past related to the production of drugs for pure profit and greed. Isn't this another example of them taking advantage of the public? Unfortunately, J&J just got caught doing that. But my response before that information came out is, although only the regulatory agencies will actually admit to this, most of them have been guilty of some version of this type of exploitation in the past. However, the process was changed for the development of this vaccine. The scientists developing the vaccine were kept totally separate from the drug companies to do their research and development independent of any of the companies involved in the actual manufacture. Once the independent scientists developed the vaccine, the formula was then handed over to the drug manufacturers for production and distribution. Unfortunately, as we now know, Johnson & Johnson did their own thing, and look what has happened with their particular version. Question: Okay, I understand all of the above, but I'm still worried. For whatever reason, why must I get the vaccine? Answer. This is very important. Everyone, please pay attention to all of this because it takes a little while to get it all out. Because we've already had 4 waves, new runaway infectious events due to the fact that, like all living organisms, the virus' primary mission is to survive. And as it feels itself being reduced by having fewer hosts, it mutates into a stronger, more vaccine-resistant version of itself. So here's what's really happening. New super mutations have sprung up in Europe, starting in the UK, South Africa, and Brazil. These versions are more contagious, more deadly, and move faster than the original. The current vaccine gives us 90 to 95% protection against COVID-19, but each successive mutation reduces our protection by approximately 20%. So that a vaccinated person has only 70% protection against the current super mutation. However, as non-vaccinated people continue to be hosts, the virus will continue to mutate, and the next version will be so deadly that vaccinated people will have another 20% drop to 50% protection, and so on, which will require stronger and different vaccines. The virus can mutate much faster than the scientists can keep up or catch up until it eventually wins and we cease to exist. So we must neutralize it ASAP as our best chance to prevent doomsday from happening, and full population vaccination is our best defense to accomplish this goal. Every single point made in that particular discussion and presentation are very key to us moving forward to where everybody wants to be, to a normalized version of what we were before this pandemic virus hit. But we're never going to get there as long as we have a significant population of anti-vaxxers or just people that are afraid to get vaccinated because of what happened, their fear being justified, unfortunately, with the J&J thing. So what Johnson & Johnson tried to do, they tried to speed everything up and go with 1 dose. And what the independent scientists developed was that it needed, because of the strength and the veracity of this particular 100-year pandemic, it needed to be in a 2-stage phase in order to get the proper boosting of the immune system to arm itself to be able to protect against the attack of the virus. Because Johnson & Johnson basically cut in line and tried to jump the process, now they're having certain problems. For those of you that got the J&J vaccine, the suggestion from my medical professional friends is either aspirin or CBD oil will help thin the blood in order to try and prevent the blood clotting process. But otherwise, you'll want to go with the other 2 options, the Pfizer and the Mandarin versions that are 2-step, 2 phases. And as I pointed out in the document that I just read to you, it's extremely important for everybody to get vaccinated as soon as possible. The statistics are not very good in terms of where we are right now. 28%, this will give you some things in terms of where we need to be concerned. 28% of the white population, 27% of the Asian population, only 17% of the Black population, and only 16% of the Hispanic population have been vaccinated so far. This is a very significant concern, and the fact that the most challenging and disadvantaged people are the ones that have the biggest exposure and the highest risk, because these people that have less than optimal health care, once again, that's another discussion topic for another day, but we all know where the roller coaster ride of that has gone lately. So many of the states, for example, the states with the lowest percentage of vaccinated people also have the lowest percentage of marginalized people vaccinated, which absolutely makes sense. The states that have legislatures and governors that have been anti-vax,
Science.
virus in terms of not taking it seriously, originally calling it a hoax, all that sort of, those states are suffering the most. They have the fewest number of people vaccinated by percentage. And people, you need to watch out for your family, your friends, your loved ones. Everyone needs to be vaccinated. It's really critical. It's really important. Just reviewed a case of from Appalachian University, 19-year-old basketball player, obviously in excellent condition. He and his roommate both caught COVID. The basketball player passed away within 2 weeks. He was only 19 years old, passed away within 2 weeks of getting COVID. His roommate survived, but he still has brain fog, and he still has not regained his sense of taste or smell. And I will now move into taking questions either regarding that or, and after we've had a brief Q&A with regard to the vaccine topic, we can pivot into the Chauvin trial, which I'm sure will be very fierce in terms of the emotional content of people that are wanting to contribute their thoughts and feelings regarding how things are going in that area.
So let me jump in. You have a couple comments, a couple questions. I'll just start at the top if you don't mind.
Sure,
now,
please go
you
ahead.
may or may not be able to answer this, but do your best. I'm sure you will. Pat says, so why are they using a vaccine that is not FDA approved?
The speed of the virus, the lack of a response from the previous administration, as well as the manipulation of both the CDC and the suppression of the actual science and experts, Dr. Fauci included, basically put spike strips, not just speed bumps, in front of the process because of the I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible, but it's really difficult.
Well, there's no need, sir, in this, you know,
because
form.
of the suppression by the previous administration of all of the key healthcare professional agencies that needed to be involved. There was no time to go through the normal standard process of getting the FDA involved. That needs to not be an impediment. Here's what, other than J&J, here's what happened with the development of the virus. The problem was handed over to the scientists. The main scientists that were involved were all foundationally based in an organic, as in an all natural process. So they were not married to the drug companies to have to come up with a chemical based type of solution. They came up with the most natural ingredients, the most natural, friendly, and harmonious to nature way to develop the formula that fights a vaccine. Once they developed that formula, they handed it over to Pfizer and Moderna, in order for them to then produce, manufacture, and distribute the vaccine. So that's my best response to that question. Next question, please.
Absolutely. We just scooch down here. Ramses has a comment. I'll come back after you. I'll talk about this stuff. I'm not getting a vaccine, period. This dude has a bad memory. Go read Medical Apartheid, the book. That's a comment.
I'm not sure what all of that means.
Yeah, he's saying I can't speak for Ramses, but I believe, this is just a guess, that he feels that because of the severe instances of and historical racism and whatnot.
Oh, yes.
Has, you know,
I can briefly touch on that. This is totally different. I understand that that is part of what is holding back a significant percentage of the Black community with regard to all of the previous experiences with the Tuskegee experiment, where Black males were exposed to sexually transmitted diseases and were intentionally not properly medicated in order to resolve them, and significant numbers of horrific maladies, as well as people dying.
Well into the 70s. I mean,
well into the 70s, yes.
Yeah.
So I understand that concern, but this is totally different. So
that,
although I understand the concern and the emotion behind that, this is not something that you need to think is carrying over in this particular area.
thank you, Don. Two more quick ones, and then we'll. Linda says, do people that refuse the vaccination understand that they're keeping the virus among us? And I don't know if that's rhetorical or something to answer, but that was her question, which is legit. I don't know.
Part of the problem is that with this particular virus, some people, especially extremely young people, can be carriers in that they will not exhibit the virus itself, but they will be carrying it. And even though they won't have any noticeable symptoms, they will still be able to expose you to the virus. So even though you're at, for example, a family function, everybody seems normal. We've seen that before. The churches that tried to open too soon, the family gatherings that tried to happen too soon. All of a sudden, many of the people at these gatherings, some of these super spreader things like the motorcycle rallies and so forth, have come away, even though none of those people at the time seemed to exhibit any symptoms.
Right.
Many came away with the actual virus. And I believe it was about 5% of the people that were exposed in that fashion that often went room temperature.
Yeah, not good. I have a couple more. Pat says, now am I correct? Doesn't it take 10 to 12 years to produce an active vaccine? But they did this within some months.
No, the previous methodology had it from 12 to 18 months. That was the normal procedure, to be fully tested, vetted, independently studied, etc. What they were able to do with this was that there was a quantum leap in the technology, not just of the development, but also in the testing. So they were able to speed everything up. And I know everybody's uncomfortable with that, but if you stop and think about it, it wasn't, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't even have cell phones. There was no such thing as some of the social media that we are totally comfortable with and familiar with today. Millennials don't even know what don't even know how to work a rotary phone, let alone that it exists. So there have been quantum leaps in technology, not just in the business world, but in the medical and scientific field as well, and as well as in the space age development things, in terms of the vehicles that we have landing on different planets in the solar system now, that is way in advance of what we ever dreamed of back when we first had a first lunar landing. So I understand those concerns. That's old school. That's basically thinking, well, how did we get from a horse and buggy to manual transmission, automatic transmission, to now we have vehicles that can self-propel and self-navigate and so forth, and run on solar battery power, et cetera. All of these different things. This is, as technology gets more advanced, the leaps and bounds that are being able to be made in the development of the next generation of what those technologies can do for us are just much, much faster than what we're accustomed to in the past.
They're really, some of them are just next generation vaccine technology. They're using stuff that's really, it's been around for a while, but they haven't been waiting to use some of it for that special.
That is absolutely correct.
So it might seem new, some of it, but actually they've been waiting for the opportunity. I believe it's been around for 14 years. Some of this, it's not like the polio vaccine where, you know, you take the dead, it's there. They've really come a long ways. You have a couple other questions, Don? Yeah,
Sure,
right.
go ahead, go ahead.
I love it.
I understand that question, but the computer models are very, very accurate to within thousands of percentage points. And so I would allay that fear. The balance of the benefit versus the potential negative, it's not even close. The benefit is much better to go ahead and get the vaccine. Next question, please.
Absolutely. Carried back. She says, Don, carried back. Don, what's your projection or that of your sources of what percentage of the US population will ultimately not be vaccinated, and what share will be the refusers and what share will be the people who just don't have access? Do you have any, you know, I know you're
I don't have,
but
I have projection data on that, interestingly enough.
oh,
but I don't have, nobody has any actual data.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. The Black and especially Hispanic populations are at very serious risk, both because of access. Now there are places like Walgreens, et cetera, the various different pharmacy dispenser places that are giving free vaccines. The current administration is doing everything they can to accelerate the production of vaccines. All of the healthcare professional organizations that I have researched, that I'm familiar with, are doing their best to ramp up to vaccinate as many people as possible, as fast as possible, because they understand that the science and the math with regard to the speed at which the vaccine is moving and mutating makes this an extremely difficult situation. If you want to err on any side, the side to err on is to get the vaccine. If you do not get the vaccine, you're basically playing Russian roulette with an automatic weapon. It's not if, but when. And there's no solution once you get it if you have no protection.
Right, right. And we have a follow-up. Carried back has was the speed in getting a vaccine the result of years of pre-Trump investment, as well as some new breakthroughs, like the Jennifer Nuda, the Nobel Prize winner, you know, just a bunch of people who are really working in the scientific field. She's Carried back asking.
The simple answer is yes.
All right, and my friend Steve, welcome, Steve. He has I believe this question is a comment or a question. Hi, have you followed Europe at all? In Germany, they're far behind on vaccinations. Friends are months away. Ironic as the chancellor was so scientifically adept versus 45. Bravo to President Biden. Very nice.
Yes, and President Biden has made it clear that as we get surplus and we're able to help other nations, we will do that without trying to find a financial angle as the previous administration was trying to do. We will just help as many people in the world as we possibly can. China has already admitted that their vaccine has problems. They have been not nearly as successful with regard to the development of their vaccine. So people traveling to Asia need to be especially careful and absolutely must be vaccinated, should be vaccinated here before going over there. They have COVID-19 tests that have been very controversial in terms of the way and the methodology that they do it. And I'm not going to go into that other than to say, make sure you're vaccinated before you go to Asia.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
I hear you. Definitely. I've read more than I need to about that as well. You have, let me see, Mercedes, I might have skipped her question, and she was talking about that was one of her questions was on the Asian China, actually, and how their vaccine, which you answered. One thing, and you have a couple other questions. I wanted to know, and I don't know if you'll be able to do this, but I get the feeling you will. A lot of people are under the impression, from what I've heard, that vaccinating people in the United States is a priority, and that'll kind of set us up. And what they're not understanding is, I believe, the word global. Global is really important because of the way the virus is mutating with many sources. So would you possibly explain how us being vaccinated is lovely, but as it mutates around the globe and entire nations are not, and they travel, how this is going to see what I'm getting at? Or
Yes, part of the propagation and travel is based on how many hosts that the vaccine has. And the fewer people that are vaccinated, the more hosts it potentially has. So getting everybody vaccinated against at least the base variant, it's kind of like when you have a master key, there's no way right now to predict how many mutations and what they will all look like, but they are all foundationally based on the same foundation, okay? Most houses are based on a cement foundation, at least have cement basements as well. So by being at least upgrading your immune system to be able to recognize the family of COVID, whether it's 19 or 9 zillion, COVID 9 zillion, whatever, you at least have a chance of having a foundation of immunity, just like all of the other serious maladies that we've seen with polio vaccines and other things, way in the past that we were able to get under control. This is a similar circumstance. If we at least have everybody at a foundational level, we can then at least move forward in a way. And not only that, because there will be fewer hosts for the virus to mutate on, there will be fewer opportunities for it to create super mutations. The problem right now is all of these anti-vaxxers and vaccine decliners. And like I said, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just trying to give you the information you need to make an informed decision. But the longer you wait, and the higher the percentage of the population that is not protected, that is still mingling around with those that even are protected. I gave you the statistics. It'll be at least a 20% drop for this next super mutation, and could be another 20% for each other super mutation as we go forward. So the best thing to protect you, your family, your loved ones, the community, etc., is to please get vaccinated.
A quick comment. Thank you. That's great. I think the reason I brought up that question, Don, is simply because as a nation that is basically essentially living a lifestyle of capitalism rather than an economic policy right now, we want to make money at the cost of human lives. That's a given. For me, that's not a debatable issue. And sadly, it is false economy, if you do care about your own life, to be this way with regards to vaccines. I'll just say it. Countries that are more poor or unable to, do what our nation is trying to do, they will go unvaccinated and they will travel. They might not travel here, but they might travel somewhere else, and so might you. And this stuff does not ask you how much money in your paycheck. And so it is very much
an excellent point.
False economy to think, well, they're poor, who cares about them? Like we normally do, which we do, because that'll come back to us. So that's kind of
way back in the 70s, there was a song that said, if there's a hell below, we're all going to go. And this is the real life embodiment of that.
Right.
All we can do is the best that you can with the tools that we have and the partial solutions that we have. And the better and the broader we implement the partial solution that we have, the better the chances of survival for everything. Eventually, if this thing super mutates to a point where it, for example, starts attacking bees, that the entire, or plants, photosynthesis is the most important chemical reaction on the entire planet. If we no longer can grow anything, if insects can no longer survive, if bees can no longer pollinate, we don't have any food, and we all die. and then it doesn't matter because we're all doomed. So
Or how much money's in your pocket really does.
just like on the Titanic, when the guy was trying to buy his way into a lifeboat, it doesn't work that way. At a certain point in time, you have to accept the fact that even if it's not for you, if for the people that are around you that you care about, if you wish to be able to be in a better position to protect them, then the choice to be made is to go ahead and get vaccinated.
Thanks, Ed. Carried Back says, Donna is featured in a new book by Walter Isaacson and reveals how and why the CDC and major medical centers were poised to jump into action. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's fascinating. Thank you so much. Your wealth of resources and information, Carried Back. Thank you.
That is true, and that's a great thing. And I can't imagine the kind of trouble we'd have been in if the previous administration had continued to be in power, because the CDC has revamped so many of their things as a result of having the handcuffs basically taken off of them so that they can do their job the way it was intended, for the science to rule the day, for the doctors and the scientists to be the ones that make the key decisions, not a political administration. This has been very key. We have been so far behind the power curve. When the current administration came in, there was no plan. Despite the lies that had been propagated by the previous administration, there was no implementation plan. There was no setup. There was no manufacturing, supply chain. None of that was in place. So for the current administration, however you may feel, the results of putting rubber on the ramp, as we would say in the military, have been extremely impressive. And there's no doubt in my mind that in contrast to the running wild propagation of deaths that we were incurring, the slowdown, you got to remember, we were up to a point at the peak of the previous administration of 5,000 to 6,000 deaths per day.
Right.
Some people have been trying to, especially the anti-vaxxers and the non-vaxxers, say that, well, we're over the hump now and we're in the clear.
Oh, no.
That is not true. We're still having waves, and we're still on average over a monthly basis, averaging about 1,500 deaths per day. That is still an enormously unacceptable. Yeah, it's small compared to the entire population of the country, but that is enormously unacceptable with regard to the loss of life and the impact on families, friends, communities, etc.
Absolutely. And personally, Don, I did a ton of videos and research on what he knew and when. And that is, it's unconscionable.
Yeah.
The timeline, he was warned over and over and over again.
Repugnant is too mild a word. Yes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We have, let me see here. We have a couple other things.
Sure.
Carried Back says it's like Darwin's survival of the fittest at the micro biological level, or that nasty last surviving gremlin in Gremlins. My age is showing, very cute. And then let me see here. Steve says, this includes Canada, for example, has ordered enough vaccines to protect each Canadian 5 times over, it claims. And then T. Rogers is saying, but my Canadian friends say they don't have access to any vaccines. So, it's more comments than questions, I believe.
I have not fully studied the Canadian scenario. I know that places like New Zealand has pretty much gone to a zero COVID cases.
My friends
they have followed from day one. Their prime minister followed the instructions of the World Health Organization and did every single act to the letter that was recommended by them. And so they are one of the few small countries. It's easier for them. They're an island nation, but they are COVID free.
Yeah, Taiwan is especially as well. Taiwan never closed.
Yeah.
Because I'm in touch with, part of my work puts me in touch with Taiwanese adults, and they've never closed, never had to.
But they have full control over their exposure as well.
Absolutely. They're an island, right? Another
island nation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to go backwards with this, but yeah, it's definitely, this could have been, don't even get me started. Let me see.
Another question.
Let me just look here. Some people are making comments. The US is doing a fabulous job. Dave says, getting the supplies out. No other country has come close, says Dave. The problem is we have a lot of jackasses who refuse to get rid of it. Use it, fabulous job, supplying the vaccine. Does it mean take it? Some states, especially Trump states, have a surplus of vaccines because none of these low life Trumpers refuse. They won't want to get it. It's frustrating, I'm sure.
The highest percentage of non-vaxxers, 2 points here. Highest percentage of non-vaxxers are the poorly educated white males in red states, and poorly educated minorities that are in disadvantaged positions because of their low financial, environmental, etc. Safety net with regard to health insurance or health exposure into any type of service of healthcare. Those are the main groups that are suffering the most. The second point with regard to that is that they did a study, and these are all of the news organizations combined, from Reuters, CNN, everybody. Their conclusion was that the giant main source of misinformation and poor information regarding both the virus, its existence, its propagation, its treatment, etc., goes to one person. I don't even have to say the name.
Do we really need to say it?
Who would that possibly be?
Possibly the man who thought we could just inject a little bleach in us. Yeah, it's really, yeah, and the whole mask thing, right? Steve has a great point. Unfortunately, the U.S. has also politicized mask wearing, which has hurt us. Wearing a mask is a no-brainer. Do you want your doctor doing surgery to maybe have a mask on? Yeah, I think yes. That's something we learned long ago. Yeah, so it's been, this is what, and I don't want to be, I'm not trying to, I told you so, but this is what happens when people choose a leader, and that is in quotes, when people choose a leader based on their own personal greed or best interest, I guess, and don't choose somebody who's humane. Every decision they're going to make, because they are inhumane, will be based on their inhumanity. And as we've all seen, it's played out like
he has no moral compass.
It's played out. Yeah. Go ahead.
He has no moral compass. He has
right.
no conscience.
Right.
He has
no a person
integrity.
with no, yeah. And this is what we get. Death.
He has set us back immeasurably, and he really is, should bear a extremely significant part of the responsibility for the huge number of deaths that went out of control that should not have happened. The computer models say that we should have been able to keep things down to somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 200,000 total. And
absolutely,
we've screamed past 650, I believe, is somewhere in the neighborhood that we're at now.
I forget the name. I've forgotten the name of the doctor who actually went on most recently and said she believes that, that they're responsible. And actually she was meaning herself for hundreds of thousands of deaths that did not need to take place. And my question is, where's the outrage? But that's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother story. This has been a total botched job.
all we can do is move forward.
Yep,
And the
right. I mean,
best process we can do for moving forward right now is to trust the two-part vaccines,
yeah.
the Pfizer and the Moderna,
Mhm.
and get vaccinated completely with both stages ASAP.
Yep. Right. I'm not sure if we have any other comments or questions. If I skipped you, I apologize. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Linda's a no nonsense person. If you don't like the mask, you won't like the ventilator.
That's
Once you're on a
right.
ventilator, you're Dr. Burks. Thank you, Carrie. I
Yes,
could not
yes,
for the, I
absolutely.
was,
Dr. Burks, yeah.
I was not happy with her as a person who, not to be arrogant, but one of my most, it's extremely important to me that I have personal integrity
Yeah.
and
She stuck her head in the sand, and
yeah.
I understand she felt intimidated and bullied, but you know what? She took a Hippocratic oath that says
Yep.
that at
Thank
least
you.
do no harm, and your responsibility is to the potential patients, not to any administrative or
Or her
other
own personal
authority.
fired or her own personal demise or of her profession. I'm sorry. I personally believe in the whole Spider-Man thing with great power comes even greater responsibility.
That is
And
correct. I
it's
agree.
extremely upsetting. I honestly can't think of too many things that have been more upsetting.
I totally agree.
So on that, thank you, Carrie back. So on that lovely note,
Are we pivoting? Are we
I
still
think
answering a
so.
few questions from
I
this?
think so. I think we've got some fan.
I know there are strong emotions in all directions, but I have no political agenda. I am just here to share my background and experience in education to help as many people as possible. I thank Angry Soccer Mom for providing the platform and for her deep caring about all of the community that tunes into her. She is a person that has a heart as big as all outdoors and is truly concerned about all of her loyal listeners as well as anybody else that happens to be tuning in at the time.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, John.
this is an extremely special and wonderful person. And if she has trusted me to share with you what I have researched and the background and experience that I have in order to bring to you the best information possible that is available to cut through the noise, cut through the politics, get to the brass tacks of what people actually need to know in order to make an informed decision. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and also, I can't thank you enough for being here with regards to this topic. It is not a risk-free topic to take a stand on because people do feel very emotional about it, understandably so, especially we've gone over and over the horrific systemic racism. As a Black man, I felt it was important for it to come from you. It's not my place. It's my
Thank
place
you.
to care about people, but it's not my place to
Glad
tell.
glad to be able to contribute and to be a help to as many people as we possibly can.
Carried back says, "Oh, Colonel, thank you. Do you discourage J&J?" He's asking. Steve's asking. They're
Well,
not giving it to us. They
I'm
took it off.
I'm I'm not going to say anything pro or con with regard to J&J. Having some protection is better than no protection. And as I said, if you've already had the J&J, the two things that my healthcare professionals have instructed with regard to helping to thin the blood a little bit so that you have some protection against the potential blood clotting is either aspirin, low dose aspirin, regular low dose aspirin, or CBD oil. Whichever one works for you is the suggestion. This is not medical advice.
Right,
It's just
right.
a suggestion that the healthcare providers that I have consulted have said would be an option that would be helpful with regard to that concern.
Did you see my bipolar on J&J? Let me just see here. I need to go back because clearly I have missed. Thank you, T. Let me go back for 1 second. Regards to J. Let me see, T. Oh my gosh, for some reason we talked about T had her Canadian friends said we did that. poorly educated, low-income folks, we did that. Agrees with Steve. You talked to Pat. I'm sorry, I'm just reviewing because I think I've skipped.
No problem. We
my
want to get
friend T, and I want
to address as many concerns as possible.
I did not. Don't hate me on this, T. Can you copy and paste it? I can't really see it. While you're doing that, I'm so sorry. Carried Back had a couple comments. She said, actually, I don't know if Carried Back says she. Can you imagine having to go to your grave knowing that she did that and harmed, her words, hundreds of thousands of citizens? I can't imagine knowing somebody that died from this and knowing.
I think she finally had an awakening moment when people came down on her so hard. She thought she was just sharing some information, and people pointed out very forcefully that she had a responsibility that she totally shirked, and that was, in the eyes of many, inexcusable, especially with regard to the huge number of lives that were lost. Part of the point that I wanted to make with regard to this is that people are not immune, regardless of age. Initially, there were a number of rumors because the largest percentage of the population that were affected initially were over 65. And certainly they have the most exposure because as we get chronologically challenged, our immune systems are not as vibrant as they used to be, but this virus is so strong, so powerful, especially the mutations, that in the example I gave of the 19-year-old Appalachian student that was a basketball player on the basketball team, obviously in great condition and young and fit and healthy and a young adult, not even 21 yet, 19 years old, 2 weeks, dead. There have been other people that have been otherwise, not knowing that there were pre-existing conditions that exist, that have gone in as few as a couple of days. Yeah. And the mutations that I'm really trying to make a big point about here are stronger, more virulent, more contagious, move faster, and are deadlier than the standard COVID-19 that we're dealing with right now. So that is a really big key as to why it's important for everybody to get vaccinated ASAP. Can't say that enough. Thank you.
I found it. I'm so proud. Okay, I scrolled up. T had a question. I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but I'll read it. J&J vaccine is only halted because the other two were not getting enough publicity, someone on the inside told me.
I don't see that. The pause in the J&J was because there were blood clot concerns with regard to its implementation, and it has been paused until they figure out what's causing that and whether or not there's something they can do with it about it, or whether they have to throw everything out that they produced so far and go with a new formula. So, yeah, I'm not too big on the conspiracy theory thing.
Yeah, I didn't hear that as well, T. It doesn't mean it's not true, but I didn't hear it as well. I heard that there was 1 out of a million, very low numbers. Nevertheless, they were transparent about it, and they chose to, halt it. 1 out of millions is pretty low compared to the deaths. Nevertheless,
to go forward with the data that we know and the facts that we know. The facts are that in some people there have been a blood clot issue. We don't know if there's a pre-existing condition connected to that. I've given you an options with regard to how to healthily create a blood thinner type of environment so that you won't necessarily have any negative consequence with regard to that, if that's a concern of yours. People are taking different medications that may or not be having effect on the viscosity of their blood, and each individual needs to make a personal assessment with regard to what it is that they feel that is best for them. However, the option to either not get vaccinated or avoid getting vaccinated, that is a very poor decision. It's your right to make that decision. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that in terms of your family, your friends, society, your communities, and yourself, It's like when the air mask comes down in the airplane and the instruction is to help yourself before you try and assist your children, etc.
She had a couple comments that I wanted to. T says, I understand, but I was told that wasn't really the truth. And she says it's not a conspiracy theory. That's not where she heard it, or just because I haven't read that, but I haven't read everything, so she's just commenting that I'm gonna speak for her. She said a reliable source must have, I don't know. I think that's what she's saying. Right? She's saying it's from a reliable.
I'm not disparaging her source.
Right.
I'm just saying I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. It's tough. And then Steve is saying, interesting, T. I also learned that they have a 2-dose study ongoing. I'm assuming J&J is what he's referring to. I don't know. So, there's some details that, we probably aren't privy to yet. Oh, okay. I got it. Thanks, Colonel Don. I'm already fully vaccinated, but I will let folks know what you said. Thank you, T.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
She's wonderful. She's absolutely amazing. Thank you, Don. I really thank you so much. You did
Very
something
welcome.
that I feel very strongly about, but I it's not my place to do, and you did great. So I think it is time to move on. And then at some point, you let us know if you are willing to take phone. Thanks, Steve. Take phone calls later on. This is a real tough subject. I mean, we thought this, we're doing it tonight, aren't we? the COVID and the vaccinations.
I have many pages. I've read many articles. I've read many recounts of what's going on with the trial.
Mhm.
Frankly, speaking just for myself, it's been extremely difficult to watch the proceedings.
Yeah, very, very. Yes.
It clearly is extremely disheartening to see that a victim is being victimized again after the fact with regard to something that should be pretty darn simple. If it were the other way around and citizen did something to officer, even a portion of the video clip would have been enough to have caused that person's demise. Here we have all of these experts, allegedly, that are, and the defense's deal is these last few days, they've tried to muck everything up by bringing in, which is part of the process, by bringing in their own defenses, saying that it's because of his
Everything
previous
but
drug use, his heart condition, everything under the sun, except for the fact that, excuse me, if he didn't have a knee on his back and on his chest, pressing his chest against the pavement for 9 minutes plus, there is no scenario that would say that he would have had a negative health result if it hadn't been for the operative catalyst of the knee being in the back of his neck, pressing his body against the pavement for way too many minutes, even after he had clearly stopped breathing. He clearly did not have a pulse. There is no viable excuse for any of this nonsense that the defense is bringing up with regard to the processing and proper adjudicating of this case from a layperson's point of view, as well as someone like me who is not a stranger to the science behind everything going on here.
That, along with all the people yelling and begging them to stop, this man to stop. I think
all of the reasonable people in the immediate surrounding area could see what was going on and could understand that this person's life was being sapped away by the action being taken by this officer. To claim
urgency, yeah, the
the person was
urgency.
resisting, when he was on the ground with his hands handcuffed behind his back, and for the officer to have his hands in his pockets, what threat did he have? There was no threat against him. He wouldn't have had his hands in his pocket.
Right. You do not put your hands in your pocket when you are threatened. That's the last thing. You mean, even as martial art, it's like, no. That's an excellent point.
There are so many things that are so ridiculous with regard to the defense. It really is an atrocious miscarriage of their professional expertise for these people that are getting up there claiming that somehow, because of his previous cardiac condition and his previous opioid usage, that in and of itself was enough to bring about his demise. Well, none of that happens if it hadn't been for the catalyst of the actual physical action of the knee being on the back of his neck with a full grown person's body weight on him while he was on the ground with his hands handcuffed behind his back with no way whatsoever for him to get any relief or get a breath. It doesn't pass the sniff test for anyone that is a reasonable person.
Do you want to take a couple comments real quick?
Sure.
People are having T. Yes? No? Yes? T says the defense ought to be ashamed of themselves. I could not have defended Chauvin in good conscience. Oh, God, absolutely not. Carried back. If the facts are against you, argue the law. If the law is against you, argue the facts. If the law and the facts are against you, pound the table and yell like hell. That's Carl Sandburg. It's an excellent quote.
Yeah, those are excellent points. That's what's going on. Oh, did you talk about the of course we didn't have full confirmation, so we weren't necessarily going. Here's what we did have confirmation on, that that they were at least acquaintances working in a nightclub at the same time. There was overlap where the police officers were mostly outside and the internal security was inside. And George Floyd was part of the internal security while Officer Chauvin was part of the external security. It's totally strongly conceivable that they knew each other on at least an acquaintance basis. And so the other angle that's brought in was, is there a revenge or some type of vengeance or axe to grind factor
personal?
On here?
Was this personal?
Was there some type of personal issue going on that Chauvin took into his own hands to resolve in an extremely repugnant manner?
Yeah, I'm done. Pat's commenting, and I think this is an excellent point that was also brought out in the trial from what I saw. Pat says, you could see the guy lift up his foot to apply more pressure on the neck. That was revealed on camera, and it was also revealed in the trial as well. It was a smug,
I agree. That was totally, like I said, repugnant isn't even strong enough a word.
We watched a murder take place before our eyes.
Yes.
I posted a bunch of things. I have no wisdom for this. It's sick. The man murdered him before our eyes. I did post, one thing. If you have a headache and then someone shoots you in the head, did you die of a headache? That's as obvious and illogical as even, obviously he deserves a fair trial. But, when I heard some of the defense argument most recently, I was like, and then when I heard the cross, they really did a good job on a lot of the cross, because honestly, like T was saying, in good conscience, I really thought they did a great job on the defenses, the cross-examining of the defense witnesses, because they broke it down to like, basically you're full of it. And that gave me a lot of relief. But
that needed to be brought out. It needed to be said. It needed to be exposed for exactly what it was.
Yeah. To hear the people's original testimony for the defense, I was disgusted. I was like, BS was just like in my mind, like, I don't believe they believe that. I don't believe them. And it was a very upsetting. And then when I saw the cross, I get this whole trial thing where you get a trial and I believe in it, but for the love of God, we saw an execution before our eyes. Don, I know you have a lot more to say, and I don't want to, jump around.
No, that's okay. Please.
I had a question. One of the things that concerned me the most is that it seems to me, I know there's the militarization combined with the extreme dehumanization of Black people and brown people, and with absolutely no regard to picking people who might actually do the job. We have the training is to shoot. We've all read the studies. This is purposeful.
Yes, I just wrote something about that recently.
Well, okay.
The training is supposed to be to walk the progression. Here's the problem that we all should be extremely concerned about. The training for police, and once again, as a former commander, I had an entire security police force that worked for me. So I'm very familiar with their tactics, their training, etc. At least in the military, but there's so much crossover. A lot of these people get out of the service and go into the civilian police force as well. So the bottom line is, you have voice, you have nightsticks, you have tasers, you have handcuffs, then you have deadly lethal force, as in a lethal weapon, a firearm. You're supposed to walk the progression.
Right. And they brought that out in the trial as well.
But here's the problem. And here's why there's so much outrage. Across the entire country, time and time again, when it comes to people of color, especially Black and brown people, we see police immediately go to the last resort instead of walking the progression from the first resort going forward.
Right. The most invasive. They pick the most invasive, not the...
Exactly. And one of the reasons that this is extremely visible is the way that you see non-marginalized people treated in similar circumstances. The patience, the tolerance, the crap that they put up with from a non-minority is absolutely ridiculous compared to the gnat's eyelash, not even waiting for a response of any kind.
Case in point, Don, the Capitol, the Capitol terrorism.
The Capitol riots.
They walked in, they walked out. They had weapons. They were saying they were going to kill somebody. They walked in, they walked out. They broke windows. So can I jump in really fast? Because the point I was trying to make was I understand what you're saying, but my actual point that I wanted to make was that it seems to me that it's extremely obvious that when somebody is being arrested or detained for a misdemeanor, such as something dangling in their car,
an air freshener
dangling, or maybe somebody thinks that they might have passed a $20 bill that was not a real bill, whether they knew it or not, who knows. To go from this very, very mild, in some states you can have a dangling, it's not even like, it's not killing anybody. You're not like a felon for doing that. And yet when it's a Black person, it would seem that they were dealing with an axe murderer that was already, it's unbelievable how it should be illegal to use force. And my other point is it really should be. And it's just extremely upsetting to see somebody who blinked wrong, basically, and they end up dead because they were in handcuffs squiggling. What the hell? It's unbelievable.
Protect and serve instantly converts to comply or die when we're talking about Black and brown people.
You said it. It's unbelievable. It's what if a person ran off? You have his license. You looked him up. You know who he is. Where's he gonna go? I mean, you know where he lives. For the love of God, these are not like, I don't know what if somebody ran off? What if somebody, it's almost like these people think they're in war and Black and brown people are the target and they'll do whatever it takes to kill them. And it's just, and we're letting it happen. Ramses has a question, if you don't, or a comment, or
Sure, go ahead.
I'm not sure. Why, Don, not talking about the Black man terrorized by the race soldier that is a lieutenant in the army going to run? I'm not. Can you see the comments?
No, I cannot. But
I'm not.
that the officer in question got fired. And the incident has raised heightened awareness.
Oh, okay. She wants you to talk about it. Okay, got it.
Okay, she wants me to talk about it. Yeah, that was obviously an extremely egregious abuse of power and authority, and it could have ended much worse than it did. Luckily, it did not end with a loss of life, but it certainly was ridiculous that it escalated to that point, that the person got pepper sprayed, arrested, detained, etc. He is turning around and suing the police department. The officer that did the most egregious actions in the altercation has been fired. And the greater good that's going to come out of this is the fact that it heightened the awareness of the entire country with regard to what's going on.
Don, in that case, I mean, when you treat somebody like a human and have human communication, they could have simply said, "Sir, I've pulled you over because I don't see a license plate." In which case, the officer, the military person being pulled over, would say, "Sir, I have it in the back. If you look in the back, I have it up." Like, that's called talking. And then they would have said, "Oh, okay, thank you for telling me. Let me, But no. Instead, they're inhumane, and he actually said you should be scared. That says it all. That's bloody obnoxious.
That was ridiculous. People of that ilk do not consider people that don't look like them to be full humans.
Oh, you could tell.
And deserving of the protect and serve mantra. And they immediately escalate and take things to a level that it never should reach under any circumstances, based on the criteria that they're claiming to be the actionable events that cause the stop and the interface and the interaction. And just as you said, it could have been handled far, far differently, far, far more humanely, and far, far more respectfully. Especially the guy is in a uniform. Hello.
Also, Don, go ahead.
How can you not give a person under that scenario the benefit of the doubt?
Incredible
that doesn't
disrespect.
Make any sense.
It was.
Go ahead. Your comment, question.
Yeah, I wanted to, something I noticed, and I'm sure other people have as well. The man that was running the show there, the main police officer, had a partner who, as far as I could tell, was absolutely appalled by what was going on. He called him off a few times. He called this rookie. Obviously, he was, not the senior officer, the second guy, because he was trying to. I saw his body language. What he was, if you listen to it a couple times or watch it carefully, and there's a couple of videos out on it.
Yeah.
See him
The,
trying to kind of, and he just, the guy shut him down. Now, I'm not saying he was overtly like, a savior, but it was very interesting who was in charge there. And even the other officer, I'm not being an apologist, but very interesting. He shut him down and he was like, did you see that?
yes.
It's like,
Military. Police is a paramilitary organization. And so a lot of the rank hierarchy, authority, et cetera, especially on scene in the middle of an incident,
saw
the
that.
senior person has a lot of authoritative jurisdiction that they are able to exercise, and the subordinate is not supposed to get in the way or interfere. And it is their job is to be supportive, and they're supposed to sort it out later unless it's particularly egregious. We just saw the female officer that won her court case because she was fired because she pulled a fellow officer off of a chokehold that was getting to the point of nearing a fatality.
I have a
She
video
was
off of
initially
my
fired for taking that action, and because she won her court case, she will now be receiving her duly deserved pension. But the fact that the initial action after internal review was for her to get fired speaks volumes as to the mismanagement of what's going on in these situations.
Black female officer, Don, is that who you're referring to?
Yes.
I have her case on my
Yes. The female, I said that she was a female officer that pulled her partner off of
yes.
Performing a chokehold that was
somebody.
nearing a fatality for the victim.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, she just won her case, so now she gets her pension. But the fact is that under further internal review within the police, they thought that her firing was a correct action, and that's ridiculous.
Unbelievable. Yeah, she lost it. She lost her job.
She lost her
did
job.
The right thing, and
thankfully,
she's
regained her pension from winning her case, but she shouldn't have lost her job in the first place.
Absolutely, she did the right thing. That is, doing the right thing gets you. I have actually have a number of videos up on my YouTube channel. Yes, I've seen that too. I've seen there's people who do the right thing.
The police officers that do the right thing often get fired. That's correct.
Fired and chastised and absolutely treated
ostracized too.
Ostracized, absolutely. It's unbelievable. So incredibly void of personal integrity, just through and through. It's disgusting. Like a couple comments here for you.
Sure.
Oh goodness.
Getting lively.
Let me see here. Whoa, scrolling. Linda, I believe this is a comment. I find America cannot even mourn one black man murdered by the police and then another one or two murders come up. Right. This is real life with cameras. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this is insane. I looked up today the actual the states that are having all these things. They have two. I didn't post it. I probably should have. They've had 207 murders that are considered homicides in the state in 20 in. Let me see. Since what was it? 2020. I mean, not 2020. Excuse me. 2000. Since 2000, they've had. That's right. 2000 to 2021, they've had 307 police killings deemed homicides. Remember the woman?
As in police killing civilians that were deemed
homicides. And do you remember, Don, the woman, I believe she was Australian, who was shot and killed by a black police officer? She was an aerobics instructor or something, and she ran out, and I think it was one of the same states. And that black policeman was actually I believe he had consequences. and it was
Yeah,
the right one.
I only remember the broad strokes of that and that align with what you just said, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah, and I had a friend just do a video I just put out today, which, and then I checked that information, and he was right. Um,
Okay.
he was right.
You saw in this most recent case, the officer that couldn't tell her service weapon from a taser. She resigned and has been arrested and charged with second-degree manslaughter, and the police chief also resigned
Yep.
because of his comments directly after the incident. And we don't know how that's going to unfold, but that's certainly a better response than how it initially looked like it was going to go, because
Sure.
of how the police chief was totally sticking up for it being a totally accidental. And here she has what, the 26-year veteran that could not tell the difference between her service lethal weapon and a taser, which obviously is mostly bright yellow, has a different look,
Right,
feel,
right.
etc.
I was even using a taser or a gun. This was a low level. I just,
You know, I was not even aware that that was a thing, that the I have an air freshener from my review mirror in my car. I had no idea that was even a thing until this incident came up.
in some
But
states. Yeah.
yeah, but I saw that it's supposedly a thing in this state, and I've never even heard of it.
And let me see. We have Ramses says, "Yep, she won." He's referring to the black female officer that I believe we were talking about. She not only won, she gets her pension and gets all her back pay. He said.
Okay, I didn't know about the back pay. I knew that she won, and I knew that she got her pension back. I didn't know that she. Okay, that's wonderful.
I heard about her case long ago, and I was like beside myself for this woman. I saw her personal interviews and whatnot, and oh, God, you do the right thing, and this is what you get.
Yeah.
So I'm
didn't know about the back pay part, so that's wonderful to hear that.
Very, very happy about that. Garrick, and I'm going to go back up. I know I'm skipping.
Nope.
Yes, he was. Let me see here. Wait a second. Oh, Garrick. There we go. Officers not only get ostracized, they also get intimidated and threatened, and when they do not follow and embrace the police brutality mentality. Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
Yeah, there's all kinds of consequences. The rest of their team, if they call for backup, everybody, the backup either won't show up or will show up when they feel good and darn ready to show up. They'll slow roll their backup support, etc., things like that. Totally putting the now kind of sanctioned officer in dire peril with regard to them continuing to be able to do their job. So now they spiral into a PTSD situation where they have to get counseling and probably can't continue with that profession and have to be let go and go on and do something else, and yet are never fully compensated for what they should have been with regard to what actually led to them having that circumstance arise.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what we're really talking about here? Oopsie, I just lost you. Are you talking?
I am now.
Oh, I can hear you now. In all these circumstances, what's going on is we have a systemic problem. It's huge, and we've had it since forever, and we're not doing anything about it. We can talk about individual cases till, we're blue in the face. It's the bottom line is we have a huge systemic problem that we have allowed to keep going. This isn't just happening in 1, 2, 3, 10, 15 places. This is happening and happening and happening and happening. We allow it as a society, and I'm talking about the white folks. We allow it.
Well, I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this to you. We need a full culture change with regard to the even-handed administration of justice. If people, you know what, being a police person is an extremely difficult job. But if you're not prepared to accept the difficulty of that profession, then you need to go to a different profession. It's really that simple. Your mantra is protect and serve, not comply or die. You're not judge, jury, and executioner. And I suppose that part of the frustration of some old school officers is that if you go through everything and do it by the book and the bad guy gets back out on the street in a relatively short period of time, that's no excuse. That's the process. That's no excuse for you to not just execute justice, but execute.
Judge, jury, and executioner.
Yes, as part of your process. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and we've seen this done not only with impunity, with absolute indignance and smug, I mean, entitlement.
Yes, the impression is that there is no consequence for this type of behavior.
Yep, yep.
And that needs to change immediately.
Yeah, I mean, and this is throughout our whole nation. I just, when I think of Don, I know I've talked about this with you before, probably. When I think of this blue line, this is out in the open. This is not like some secret. Wow, we didn't know. The blue line.
Before there were video cameras, etc., it was the blue line, and all of the fell down a flight of stairs stories were always believed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we have evidence. So think of all of the zillions of people that suffered before we had this type of
corruption.
And now it's even more illustrated because we're going through a process where we have definitive visual, video evidence. And if it were the other way around, if there were video evidence against a civilian doing something against a police person, this would have been an open and shut case. And here we are going on for weeks and weeks. What it'll be 3 weeks? It'll be the fourth week by next week when the case actually goes to the jury.
Right.
That any reasonable person looking at all of the evidence can only come to one conclusion, and yet the defense is putting up a smear campaign in order to get reasonable doubt into at least one person. Well, the doubt that could be raised should not be considered reasonable.
I'm sorry, there were lay people and people with screaming, begging, pleading for a large part of those 9 minutes. For the love of God, this man, I'm sorry, things have to make sense. In my mind, Don, if this man gets off, then it is just it's a bloody free for all. I mean, it really is already. That there's an idea that he could get off. We've done nothing on the systemic level to stop this. And the only thing I can say is because white people, not everybody, but the masses, we are the numerical majority, we are allowing this because we're okay with it. I'm sorry, silence condones, and people, just because they're not saying cheering and yelling, doing nothing, you might as well be cheering and yelling. I am incredibly disappointed in my fellow humans.
In this case, in cases like this, silence represents compliance, and that's unacceptable.
Absolutely. And we need more white folks to step up to the plate and take a risk, take a chance, find their voice. I'm sorry, Don, I know Black, Brown, and Indigenous people are doing all they can, but I'm not saying this is your opinion. This is my opinion. I own this opinion. Right. We did this. Okay. Me personally, not you personally, but we as a collective, we did this. And so help me God, we are the ones that need to take some racial responsibility and make it stop. Not to be a hero, not to get your face on, your picture on Facebook so all your friends think you're cool, because we're human.
And
It's
that's how you
just called doing the right thing.
it's boy, lo and behold, having some goddamn personal integrity. And I'm sorry, that's what it's called. And we are void. We have a white person problem in this country. Sorry, just saying it. And for forever and a day, we've called it a Black problem. No, this is a white person problem.
Well, MLK said it, injustice anywhere represents injustice everywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you want to hear some comments or
Sure.
anything like that? Let me see. There's so many comments. I'm not sure where to start. I'm so very pleased everybody's here. I know.
And involved.
Yeah, and involved in writing. Thank you so much. This means the world to me personally, as obviously you know, and I know Don. Oh, this is crazy. That we are still talking about this in 2021. There's no words.
Well,
I don't
the
have the words.
the Orson Welles piece that you posted,
Oh,
75 years and the needle has barely moved.
that could have been today. That post, when I posted that, I was like, my God, the Orson Welles. If you haven't seen the Orson Welles, it's long, but I was absolutely captured by it. I was like, my God, this man, way better than I could ever put it, is speaking my heart. He was speaking my heart. If only I could talk that way.
He was extremely articulate and addressed all of the key issues from many different angles.
It was amazing.
It's extremely well done. It's a very, very important piece that is essential, really, for as many people as possible to listen to in order to capture the depth and breadth of the issues at hand and keep in
1946.
perspective. Yes, 75 years ago, and the needle has barely moved.
Might as well have been today. Might as well have been
You go
today.
back and you listen to the Dr. King speeches of the 60s, and they are totally applicable. It's as if he's talking about what happened yesterday or the day before type of thing. It's scary that we've made so little progress, and I apologize for making a political statement, but the previous administration took us back at least 60 years in civil rights progress.
And Don, one of the things that I'm doing on Sundays is going through this white fragility book, which is kind of a pre-book to actually getting white folks to get comfortable enough to find their voice and to use their privilege, whether you're poor, whether you're rich. If you're white, you have that privilege. It doesn't mean you don't have problems. It doesn't mean your life is great, but you have a certain privilege that comes with being born white into a culture of white supremacy. So the whole point is to get my whole YouTube channel and my Facebook channel and my Facebook groups before I got kicked off for life and all that are all about trying to encourage, motivate, beg, threaten, white people to care. These are our fellow humans. And you know what the interesting thing that when I looked up the Minnesota, whatever the deaths and all that stuff, there were tons of white people being killed too. Percentage wise, more people of color who are black, more black people, more other people of color, but there were white people all over it and teenagers too. This is not just, if you think this is happening in larger percentages to black people, African-American people, brown people, indigenous people, sure. But numbers wise, it's happening to white people too. Do we just not give a shit? I don't know. Is it worth it to us to see black people be murdered with impunity? White people are having it happen too. We should, if all lives truly matter, where are the white people? I want to know. And you can tell by the numbers of white people I have or don't have on my sites that, they're going about their business. And I get it. We got to make ends meet. We have work. We have to do this. But it's our responsibility.
Well, when they thought their privilege was threatened, they found the time and et cetera in order to storm the Capitol building. So.
Exactly. So you know what? Maybe we have a little more time than we think, and maybe we know a little bit more than we're saying we know about white supremacy. You know, and that's, I don't know what else to say. I'm not trying to, go on and on, but when I see the numbers, and my numbers used to be going up, 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 and then Trump came around and it has entitled people to basically not give a shit about their fellow humans. Like DN just made a comment, if we became dogs and cats, I think white folks would care more. And you know what? I think they would. And it's barbaric. It's barbaric. And that's, I know, Don, you're not going to, you stuck to the topic, but I have to say, my whole point of doing this, I don't get paid for this. I do this because I do this. I do this because it's the right thing to do. I'm not a hero. I don't need credit for being human. I think everyone else should be doing this. Everyone. And it's just incredibly upsetting to see so many white folks basically going about their business when our brothers and sisters are being murdered by the government we pay taxes to. So I'm not trying to be, like hyperbole and whatnot, but I can give you a couple more comments if you want. And there's so many great comments. I don't know where to start, to be honest. I do want to do a quick plug. If you believe like I do, that it is way past time for white Americans to take racial responsibility, please consider subscribing, watching my videos, sharing them with people. And it will be uncomfortable because this is not a comfortable thing. If it were, we wouldn't have a problem. But white folks are just, for the most part, run like the plague. I put a post up the other day, Don. If only we would care about our brothers and sisters who are Black, brown, African-American, indigenous, of mixed heritage, the way we are so worried about getting COVID. And I guess in some states that doesn't really, if only we would do it with that intensity, then it would matter. If we believed that them being harmed was like us being harmed, because it is. Nobody benefits from racism. Nobody except the wealthiest elites. So anyway, I'm blabbing.
No. You're making excellent points, and they're totally consistent with exactly what's going on right now. When certain people have complained about Biden stopping the pipeline project. Well, hello, it went through sacred Native American territories and lands, and not one single conservative that I heard ever brought that point up.
Yep.
And not only that, there are two other consequences with regard to that. A, we need to, like the rest of the world, get as far away from dependency on fossil fuels as possible. And B, we need to continue our development of technology to improve and go forward in those areas. And C, it's going to create more high-tech, more forward-leaning jobs. That's like trying to stick up for a buggy whip factory to say,
move on, everybody.
It's so important to do this pipeline thing, versus all the jobs that are going to be created by going to renewable energy sources.
Absolutely. We're willing to move on and everything else. But not that.
Well,
it's unbelievable.
They haven't been able to connect the dots with where they can avariciously make a whole lot of money off of it yet, because they're still stuck in their sunk cost investments in older forms of energy, basically fossil fuels.
Well, capitalism was never meant to be a lifestyle, and that's it's gone rogue, out of control, unchecked. Mr. FS Black says, I saw the body cam footage of, he's referring to the one with the taser and the gun. Even if she was going for her taser, she was holding the weapon out in front of her long enough to see that it was her firearm that she was holding. Garrick says, remember the media gave Mark Furman a pass as they not only had taped interviews, but internal affairs cases of abuse, harassment, lawsuits, and planning evidence. The problem can't be deflected. If you think about these guys, Chauvin does not have a good record.
No, I read that too. He has a number of incidences,
very similar type
abuse of his authority and mismanagement of the circumstances and situations in which he was involved in the past that led to internal investigations and other actions that should have led to either serious reprimands, corrective action, retraining, demotion, expulsion from the job, etc., but did not.
Don, I get this feeling that soon, if it's not already, it might be more dangerous to be a Black man in America than to be a police officer. I mean, I'm just saying, this is ridiculous. These people go into the profession and they know, I mean, if they're on the planet here, like we all know what that blue line means. We all know it's like out in the open. That's what kills me. It's out in the open. It's corrupt. Yet
they don't care because they know that they're getting supported at the higher levels of authority that is not only allowing and permitting, but is protecting and defending. Look at all the excuses they're coming up with.
Excuse after excuse. And police have always been the gatekeepers of racism, as you know too well. Always. They were the ones who yanked the people, when this was legal. Well, I want to say it is legal still. It is legal still. Because look at it. It's legal still. Linda says police need to be accountable. They cannot be policed by police. Their union has to go. Carried Back says, some days I don't want to get out of bed. It's depressing and demotivating to watch stupid, hateful history repeat. Georgia voter laws, violence on Blacks, dragging elected representatives from state houses, etc. Yeah, I don't know why, but I can't normalize any of this.
That was absolutely outrageous.
Oh my goodness, that was.
She knocked on a door and they dragged her out like a violent criminal.
Well, Don, they were going to interrupt the plantation owners with their little picture, and that was like, if that could have been in 1940, 30 something. I mean, that could have been that with the plantation in the back and my God, and their little white, that was so cliche, it was terrifying. Garrick says Furman intimidated his own partner, Andrew Purdy, married a Jewish woman, and Furman stuck a swastika in his locker. The fingerprints were traced back to Mark Furman. Yeah, I mean, Garrick's really good with that kind of history. Thanks, Garrick. This is crazy. Like T says, Kim, like I said earlier, it is dangerous to be Black in America.
Yes, extremely.
Yeah. And even if this is the crazy thing, it's terrorism. I'm sorry, in my mind, I'm not speaking for Black people, I'm speaking for me. I believe it's terrorism because you see, they don't even have to get you. It's that they could get you and get away with it.
It is. The young man that was just executed was in fear of his life. That's why he wanted to escape the situation. He saw that it was going way out of hand, above and beyond what was called for. Excuse me, you pulled me over for an air freshener, and this escalates to a lethal situation. Yep. And now she's charged with second-degree manslaughter. The police chief that got to resign pretty much gets to walk away scot-free. Now she's going to go through a little bit of a scenario, but how many people think she's actually going to get convicted of anything? Hard to say.
Less than 1% ever have any real consequences. And as we all know, it's voluntary to even have to, we don't even know the numbers. We don't know the numbers of people that are murdered with impunity because we don't keep track in America. This is, I mean, could we please say corrupt? I can't imagine a more corrupt. Everything is, we have a system that everybody knows about, and we're all kind of okay with it. Not we, but I mean collectively, you know?
So many times we've seen an incident where we thought it was an egregious abuse of police authority, power, action, etc. And the result that comes out of their internal investigation is, oh, well, we internally investigated and found it was a legal shoot.
And then they get to go to, even if they do get fired, they get to go to another place. It doesn't
another jurisdiction.
Another jurisdiction.
Yes, and they're right back in business. That's right.
It's really.
It's like it never occurred on their resume. It's more of a merit badge of honor versus a demerit.
Yeah, I mean, think about what happened with the Rodney King beating. I mean, I was in Compton, California as a elementary school teacher at the time, and we all saw it on camera. We all saw it on video. For the love of God, they close to murdered the man, and enjoyed. I mean, it was basically probably what always has happened. You know, a lynching, but this time it got on camera, and they still got off.
Yes.
I mean, it's a police state. It's based on systemic racism, where police are the keepers of the gatekeepers of racism in America.
It was basically deemed an appropriate action and response. As incredible as that may seem.
Yeah. I mean, this is all just, you know, and this is all very purposeful, and don't think for 1 minute the people with power don't know what they're doing, because they do. How do we know? Because we wouldn't have it. This is all purposeful. Keep racism, systemic racism, alive and thriving in America. And that is why I constantly badger white people. Please, these are her brothers and sisters. I love them. And if you don't know them, you would love them too. They love their children just like we do. I mean, I don't even know how to appeal anymore to white people. I don't know what to say to make people care. I don't know. It's not about me, but I'm just saying, like, that's the only reason I do this, is because I can't just sit and do nothing. I just can't sit and watch, you know? So do you want to add a few more? We have so many incredible comments.
There are blind spots. People have blind spots, and they have an ingrained training, whether it's overt or covert, that tells them that people that are unlike them, that don't look like them, are lesser of a person, and they should have fewer feelings or respect for those people. And it's an abomination that we have evolved a society that has that kind of viewpoint on things, but it's the reality that we live in.
Yeah, it's like vicarious learning is just thrown out the window. I never seen a murder like I've seen, like when I saw George Floyd. It was like I watched a murder on TV. Okay, but it was real.
Yes.
And
we still have rampant mass shootings going on all over the place because the NRA has told everybody that anybody that can fog a mirror should have a gun. It's
Anyone who can-
crazy. We had this once upon a time. It was called the Wild Wild West, and it didn't work.
Mhm.
And
No.
organization and legislation led to a different type of structure and organization that moderated these things. There was an assault weapons ban once upon a time that got taken away by a certain type of administration. And here we are again in a worse case, because just as we were talking about the advance of technology with regard to healthcare, technology has advanced with regard to weaponry. We no longer have flintlocks. We no longer have revolvers. We have
Right.
automatic weapons with large magazines that have incredible firepower
Hundreds. Right. I mean,
and are designed to kill people. You don't go hunting with those types of weaponry. You go into a wartime situation in battle. This is something that I know a little bit about
yeah.
as a former commander.
When
And
you
by the way, as long as we're on that topic, sorry to divert and go on a sidebar here, but I had authority, command of people that were professionally trained, certified, authorized to carry lethal weapons. And because I knew the type of person that I was dealing with, I still did not rest easy knowing that they had a firearm, a lethal firearm in their possession.
they were trained.
And were trained.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So
It's,
the idea of thinking that anybody that can fog a mirror should have a lethal weapon of this kind without proper training, authority, supervision, etc., it's absolutely an abomination of any sense of correct, applicable, responsible leadership and management of a situation that leads to potential gross loss of life.
let me jump in for a minute if you want to keep going. Go ahead. Garrick has
No,
3 comments
jump in.
that there's so many people who have so many comments worth reading. I feel terrible. I'm going to read every one of them. Garrick says, Furman intimidated his own partner. We already read, I think I read that, putting a swastika in his, I mean, he obviously is a very racist person. These encounters are being video recorded, Garrick says. What is frightening is people comply and still die. No one is safe, no matter how much you so-called obey the law. He went on to say, Rodney King was a possible initiation for Officer Timothy Wind. I don't know if that's Wind or Wind, as he was the only rookie and the rest were all veterans. Interesting take, Garrick. Interesting take. I honestly wouldn't put it past. It's a corrupt gang-like mentality. I wouldn't put it past. Deanne says, the good book says the hearts of men will grow cold. Garrick also said, start exposing the media's buzzwords, playing the race card, as these 4 words have defended, deflected, and denied racism when the complex topic of race surfaces. Now the problem is getting worse. And Mr. F.S. Black says, and George Floyd allowed the officers to arrest him. He wasn't resisting. Steve says, thank you for your service. Steve says, Rittenhouse walks around with a semiotic weapon. No police even give him a double take. That why did they take?
Yes, we've
right
seen
back out of
the videos that show a difference between non-marginalized people walking around with assault weapons, and if a marginalized person attempts to do the exact same thing, they immediately get pulled over, spread eagled on the ground by the police, etc.
Absolutely. Lucky if they live.
Lucky if they live is correct, even though they have the correct paperwork and authorization to do what the non-marginalized people do. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, if you think about the Rittenhouse, this kid walked by police with a gun. George Floyd did not have a weapon. He was killed, and this kid gets out on, I mean, this is crazy. It's
not only was he out, he's out drinking in a tavern,
doing
with the Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys. Yep. It's just all on. This is just so unbelievable, the whole thing.
And
It's
still hasn't been pulled back in to serve his sentence.
And he was found not living at the place he was supposed to be living at, and he should have been under the guidelines. He was supposed to be at a certain residence, and he wasn't. And he wasn't.
Yeah, they couldn't find him.
White
Lovely.
privilege on steroids, people.
Yes.
This nation is so corrupt. It is beyond human understanding. And it's extremely important. I am not short of begging people to help me find white people who will listen. I have no shame anymore, because you see, who cares about me? I'm just one person. People are dying. And white people are standing there doing nothing. Or worse than that, they don't even know, because you know what? It's not their place, not their business. Yeah, it is our business. It is our place. It's called being human. And I'm sorry, that sounds harsh and mean. But these are my fellow humans that I love. And I am not at a point in my life where I really give a shit anymore about what people think of me. I really am not. I will speak the truth, and I will beg anybody to help me find white people to teach, because we are teachable. We are, but we have to want to. We have to want to. And it's just really tough. So do you want to make some closing anything? I can't thank everybody enough for being here and having this incredible conversation. I mean, this is such a tough, callous and apathetic. He says, yeah, I don't get it. This was so many of my friends who were Black and brown said, I can't watch these trials. I just can't. And
I'm one of them.
Yeah, you were one of them, right? And I couldn't watch for certain amounts of time. I just thought my emotions were just like I wanted to reach through and just go. But I know it. I can't imagine if I feel that way. How it's too much. It's just too much. So I want to thank every last person. I apologize.
My chief of security just showed up.
Oh, there's your pup. I think that's a hint. Food, potty. Oh, it's like 3 hours earlier where you are. If you know,
she's had her food. She probably wants Daddy to take her out.
Well, Don, I cannot thank you enough for your expertise, your wisdom, and your patience and time.
Glad to be able to make a contribution to the wonderful work that you're doing. I appreciate you very much and applaud you even more for all that you're doing, for the things that you bring to bear to people's awareness. That is a very necessary and lonely calling for you to perform these actions, and doing it with all of your heart and soul, and with the expertise. People may or may not realize that you are seriously credentialed with regard to the extent of your educational background and credentials. And I recognize that and applaud that very much with regard to all of the great
getting accolades like crazy right now online.
And well, you deserve it. You've earned it. You have many different deserving credentials and accolades that are applicable to you. And I thank you for trusting me and bringing me into the fold to make a small contribution to the wonderful body of work that you're accomplishing. And I thank you very much. And I'm glad to be able to make some type of a small contribution. And I'm also available to whenever you wish to call on me. I will do my very best to adjust my schedule to be able to make any kind of contribution you may need in support of your work.
The last couple people are just being so darn sweet. Carrie, I got to read what Carrie Bax and T and Steve. The conversation was so good, she said, that I stopped commenting. I just wanted to soak it all in. Great program. Thank you, Don. Credit right to you. Seriously.
I will repeat again for anyone out there that has not seen the post that you made when you discovered that Orson Welles piece. I think it's absolutely magnificent. He did a fantabulous job. And when you think that it's 75 years ago, and what an incredible risk that he took to his Hollywood career status, etc., to come out full force out front with the full-bodied statements that he made, and for it to disappointingly still be very, very applicable 75 years later.
I couldn't believe it when my friend sent it to me, and actually my friend was on here, and I have to say, I was hypnotized.
Yes.
Hypnotized by it. I listened again. I said, my God.
It's very compelling.
I'm going to put it right up here.
Well done.
Just so that everybody, if they don't know what we're referring to. Thank you, Don. I was blown away. Like, here it is. I just put it up there.
It's an extremely important piece. I think it's wonderfully done. I thank you so much for bringing it to my attention.
Well, Mahako, my friend,
I've shared it all over the place, both the messenger as well as I posted it on every single one of my websites. Every one.
Thank you so much. That message,
that impactful.
That line, I listened to it again and again, and I was like, mind equals blown.
It's worth it to listen to it more than once. Absolutely.
Every word, it was like, this, yes, this. And he was so nice about it too. Like, and you know, his show got canceled. His show was canceled.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It was very much against the grain at that state in time. At that point in time in history, it was very much against the grain. And so spot on and so applicable and so valuable and so well done.
So, and T, thank you so much, T and Linda, and just carried back. Everybody is just wonderful. And Steve, my sweet friend Steve from college. I'm just thrilled that people could be here. Really means a lot to me. And DN, nice to have you here. We're gonna have new people, and I love it. And I know I'm skipping a million people, but cannot thank you enough. And Mr. FS Black, oh my gosh. Carried back, and I will say goodnight to everybody. I'm going to be on Sunday with chapter 3 of White Fragility, the preschool book before you know, it's amazingly dense. And I'll be actually this Sunday, this is going to sound really goofy, I'm hanging out from 3 to 5. And I hope people stop by. If it's nice out, they might not want to because they want to go play outside, but stop by and say hi. I do a free stream. There's no agenda. I hang out and do my work. And if people come by, I want to know you. I want to know who you are. And so you can tell me your life story, and you can even call. All right. So Dan, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. And Don, and good night, everybody. And stay safe. Thank you. Good night until we meet.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody. Now to end it. Doop. Are you still there, Don? Can never.